I recently made a video ranking the top 75 players in NBA history, which, shameless plug, you should definitely check out if you haven't already. And among the many comments I received on that video, both positive and negative, one that I heard from more than one person was this. You know, I don't think I've ever seen a top 50 list featuring Joe Dumars before. And when I thought about that, I realized I don't think I have either, which is saying a lot because I watch a lot of frickin' basketball ranking videos, and I don't think I've ever seen someone else put Joe Dumars in the top 50 like I did. And it wasn't even that these people who mentioned this were disagreeing with me, it was just kind of a statement of surprise, like, I never thought about it, but I don't see that very often. So I decided to make a video today on Joe Dumars and why I believe he is one of the more underrated and forgotten about players in the history of the NBA. Joe Dumars had a 14-year NBA career all with the Detroit Pistons, and from 1986 to 1999, he managed to make the finals 3 times, winning twice, and being awarded the finals MVP over the Los Angeles Lakers in the year 1989. By the time he retired, Joe Dumars has accumulated career averages of 16 points and 4.5 assists on 46, 38, 84 shooting splits. Very good efficiency, even if it wasn't on the highest volume. And in the year 1990, Joe Dumars was actually a mere 2 percentage points away from the field of having a 50-40-90 season, which I believe would have placed him as the second player ever, after Larry Bird, to have a season of this caliber. Joe Dumars was a very efficient three-point shooter, and really just shooter from everywhere on the field, a decent passer, but the main thing with Joe Dumars' game was his defense. Some people don't realize this because he had a relatively short peak and not an extremely long career, but at his peak, Joe Dumars was the second best player on the Detroit Pistons on both ends of the floor, and his main thing was defense. He was a 5-time all-defense team maker, with 4 of those teams being first team, making them from 1989 through 1993, with his only year being on the second team in 1991. Now that's impressive for anybody, but it's even more impressive when you consider the fact that Joe Dumars played next to Defensive Player of the Year Dennis Rodman, very good perimeter defender in Isaiah Thomas, and happened to play the same position as prime Michael Jordan, who was also a shooting guard and who won the Defensive Player of the Year literally the year before Joe Dumars made his first all-defensive team. He also made 3 All-NBA teams. Obviously, he won the Finals MVP in 1989, which was very impressive. The dude just accomplished a lot in a very short time span, and he was the second best player on this Detroit Pistons team, which went to the finals for 3 straight seasons and managed to win 2 separate titles against the Los Angeles Lakers. Not to mention, in the East, they had to beat Larry Bird's Boston Celtics, and even though this was a little bit past his prime Bird, this was still a very, very good team, and Michael Jordan's Bulls, who was already the best player in the NBA by 1988, in my opinion. They had to use the Jordan rules to beat him, and the biggest part of the Jordan rules was Joe Dumars playing excellent lockdown, okay, maybe not lockdown, but excellent one-on-one defense against Michael Jordan. And Jordan himself, sorry about that motorcycle going by, Jordan himself has stated that Joe Dumars was the toughest defender he faced during his NBA career. Very high praise from the greatest player in NBA history for Joe Dumars. He was a beast. He was absolutely a beast for the Detroit Pistons. He won a Finals MVP, he made a whole bunch of all-defensive teams, one of the best defenders in the league, he had a very efficient 20 points per game during his prime. So why does nobody talk about this dude? Why is Joe Dumars so forgotten about? Because maybe I have him a little high on the list. Looking in him, I believe I placed him at 41 on my top 75 list. Maybe that was a little bit too high, but I do believe he is still a top 50 player of all time. If I remade that list today, there would be a few small changes, and even if I moved him down a few places, he would still be within my top 50. So why doesn't anybody else have him that high? Well, first of all, he did play on some all-time great teams. Obviously, Isaiah Thomas, one of the best point guards of all time. He was a great defender, he was an underrated scorer, he was a phenomenal passer, and he might be regarded as an even better passer if he didn't happen to play at the same time as both John Stockton and Magic Johnson, who both have a case for being the greatest passers in NBA history. Isaiah Thomas, in any other era, would have stood out as the best passer in the league, and he just happened to be playing at the same time as arguably the two greatest ever. Meanwhile, the team also had Dennis Rodman, who was the best defender, better than Joe Dumars. He was more versatile, he won 2 Defensive Player of the Years, he was the best rebounder in NBA history, and so he gets more of the credit for the Pistons' elite defense. The team was also very deep, they had great players like Mark Aguirre and Bill Laimbeer. This was by no means some carry job team by Joe Dumars, and it wasn't even a team where he was the Scottie Pippen role, where Michael Jordan was the clear number 1 and Scottie Pippen was the clear number 2, and for the most part, everybody else was significantly below. Joe Dumars was not a Scottie Pippen for this team. This was a very team-based team. I'm saying team too much, but this was a team who played very good team basketball. I'm still saying it. Look, Joe Dumars may have never had a season where he even averaged 25 points a game. He never won Defensive Player of the Year, and overall, when you look at his accolades, they don't look that impressive because he didn't have the longest prime. But what Joe Dumars did in his prime was be, in my opinion, the clear second best player on both ends of the floor for a team that made 3 straight finals and won 2 championships, and Joe Dumars also got a finals MVP. Put some more respect on this man's name. He needs to get more credit than he deserves. I feel like Isaiah Thomas, not saying Isaiah Thomas isn't a beast, but Isaiah Thomas gets a little bit too much credit for these Detroit Pistons teams. These were very, very good, very, very deep teams, and Joe Dumars was the core of this. There's a reason that the Player Sportsmanship Award was eventually named after Joe Dumars. He was the glue guy on this team who did everything on both sides except for rebound, of course. He was a terrible rebounder. But he did a lot for this team. He kept the team together with a whole bunch of hot-headed personalities on that Detroit Pistons team. Joe Dumars was crucial. They would not have won any of their titles without Joe Dumars. They would not have gotten past the Celtics. They sure as hell would not have gotten past the Bulls with Michael Jordan if Joe Dumars was not there playing his role on the bad boy Pistons. Put some respect on his name. He is a top 50 player in NBA history.